Hello everyone, welcome to 3ddesignacademy.com. In this lesson, we will continue with part 65 of constructing the car project. Okay, so in the previous lesson, I started working on the fillet over here, so I'm going to continue with that. Let's do this part first, and I'm going to continue on with this with the rest of the area over there. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with how the surface has turned out. It did take a little bit long time getting this sorted out. There were a little bit of positional continuity issues, but I was able to resolve that. So now let's take a look at the fillet itself and try to refine it a little bit. So I think this one looks good. You know, the CV structure is good. However, this one in the middle, I think this could use a little bit improvement. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually hide this, and I'm going to try to make a square with the existing carbon surface. So looks like that's a lot of span. So I'm going to say 2 is going to curvature, 4 is going to be curvature, and I'm going to just leave 1 and 3 as is. And I'm going to do a little rebuild, and that doesn't reduce the spans that much. So I'm going to say explicit control. I'm going to start with 5 and 5 because that's the minimum number of degrees that required for curvature. And I'm going to say I'm going to add a few spans. 4, 5. Looks like it's not working as well as I hoped. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say align G2. Okay, it looks like it's failing position. So I'm going to say curvature, and I'm going to reduce the span to 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it looks like we need at least 4. Same thing over here. Okay, so if this is the case, I'm going to see right now that it looks pretty good. I'm going to try to see if I can do project, and I'm going to see if I can reduce the numbers. Okay, so if this is the case, I'm going to try something a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say untrim and untrim. I'm going to delete that carbon surface. I'm going to just isolate these like that, hide unselected. And I'm going to just put a blend curve there. So, actually not a blend curve. I'm just going to duplicate the curve over here. So I'm going to say duplicate curve. I'm going to snap it over here, and I'm going to do one more over here. And I'm going to say stretch. I'm going to align over here, and I'm going to align this over here. I'm going to align G2. Same thing over here, G2. Here and here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. It's pretty close to the existing carbon surface. However, I'm going to try to see if I can refine it. So if you notice right here, you will see that the CV structure between this surface and this curve is a little bit different. So I'm going to try to match it as much as possible. So in order to do that, I'm going to start with tangent over here, and I'm going to align curvature here. And on the other side, same thing. I'm going to align tangent first. And I'm going to align curvature here. Now it's a little bit closer. It's not perfect, exactly the same, but that's fine. And because it is a curvature continuous to this, I think that this curve is good. Okay, so same thing over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to keep the CV structure as similar as possible. So I'm just going to copy and paste this one like that. And I'm going to scale it up a little bit just so that the length is pretty similar. And I'm going to use the stretch tool to snap it here. I'm going to align. Like that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And I'm going to use, well, actually, let me just try this first. So I'm going to project, and I'm going to project over here. Okay, actually, let me just turn up the quality because the lines were jagged. So I'm going to say square. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I'm going to turn explicit control off, and I'm going to try. Okay, so it's a little bit better than before, but still a lot of span. So I'm going to try to use a line. So I'm going to just grab the surface over here, and I'm going to say edge, curving surface over here. Gonna just position influence to max, and the spans I'm gonna turn it all the way down. Okay, so it looks like it's still failing position. So maybe crank it up a little bit. 1, no, 2, 3, and 4. That's 4. Okay, so it still looks like it needs 4. Okay, if that's the case, let me try this way. So I'm just going to say 1, 2. I'm going to use the curve instead, like that. I'm going to turn rebuild off. I'm going to do like this. I'm going to say 1 and 3 is going to be curvature. And I'm going to align it directly onto the surface using line. So I'm going to say align G2 project, and I'm going to grab this edge. I'm just going to snap it over here, and we were able to achieve curvature. Same thing over here. I'm just going to align like that, and that looks pretty good. Actually, that's excellent. So I'm just going to delete the curve, and I'm just going to delete the construction history like that. And I'm going to trim, and I'm going to trim over here. Now, because I did align it here, I'm just going to check the continuity. That's curvature over there. Looks like that failed curvature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say show max label, show comb. Make sure that it's good. Okay, so it looks like it's failing a little bit over there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab the CV. I'm gonna say in UV 5000. I'm gonna try to see. Looks like it's not gonna do anything over there. So I'm gonna grab this one. I'm just gonna make sure that it doesn't fail position. Let's see if I can. Okay, so it looks like it's going to affect both. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab both, and looks like it's failing. It's starting to fail curve position. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab these two CVs like that, and I'm going to try go the other way. And here it is. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So I'm going to delete construction history, and that looks good. Now, the surfaces over here, it looks like it's missing surfaces, but I think I might have just deleted the fillet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to untrim all the pieces over here and over here. I'm going to try to run the fillet again. Okay, so I'm going to untrim here like that. And I'm going to, okay, this one also untrim. Delete the carbon surface over here. Like this. This one I'm going to keep. And I'm going to say trim. Carbon surface over here. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. There's no, oh, okay, the carbon surface here. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. So now, let's say surface fillet, chord G2. Again, I'm going to say 50, form factor 1. Yes, so this is the number, these are the numbers that I used, so I'm going to keep it the same over here. So I'm going to say surface fillet over here. I'm just going to grab all the surfaces and go around like this and hit the go button. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to grab this also and this. Okay, so it looks like there are a little too many pieces, but overall, well, it is kind of necessary. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, so the only thing that has maybe a little too many spans is this corner over here, but it's understandable. And the rest of the surfaces look pretty good. So now before we continue over here, I think I want to try to connect this one first. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this surface fillet, and I'm going to say delete construction history. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, okay, so this is a little bit, I wish it was a little bit lower, but I think I should be able to work with it. So let's find out if I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this one, and this one like that. And I'm going to say freeform blend. I'm going to connect these two. Say G2 on one side, G2 on the other. And I'm just going to grab it like that. It looks like there's a span in the middle. To be honest, I don't know why, but it can be reduced. So I'm just going to grab this one, align it over here, use the spans, and do the same thing over here, like that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And I'm going to just try to project this curve over here and see how close it is. Looks like it's almost bang on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a curve to curve. And looks like it's actually positional. So if that's the case, this actually makes my life really easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to intersect these two pieces, and we won't have to trim anything, trim, convert, and align all the stuff. We don't have to do any of that. So I think I'm just going to leave it like that. So I'm just going to, first of all, project this one, make sure that this is curvature continuous, and it is. Okay, so that's good. And if that's the case, I'm just going to trim this piece here and trim this piece over here. And this one right here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim it against this one because it is so close. I think it should retain position. So if you notice here, oh, that's not good. Well, let me just check. Wait. Oh, that's really unfortunate. I don't know why it's not. Oh, looks like there's a little gap. Okay, so if that's the case, what we can do, actually, if that's the case, I'm just going to leave it. So because what's going to happen is I'm going to put a tiny little fillet here. So this is what's going to happen. So it's, oh, actually, it probably needs to be a little bit bigger than that. So I'm just going to say 2. I'm going to say extend on both sides so that I can just show you what's going to happen. So there's going to be a fillet here. So I think this is a non-issue. While it's unfortunate that it didn't fit perfectly. So I think there was probably a little problem with this surface over here. I thought I aligned the position, but I guess I did not. But no matter, I'm just going to try to keep this a little bit simpler. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave this position, this edge as is, and I'm just going to trim this piece away. So I'm going to say keep. So, and that's good. All right, so this side is done, and I'm pretty happy with that. Highlight looks pretty good, so it's flowing nicely. Yeah, it looks pretty nice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, try to finish this up, and I'll try to reduce the spans on that surface. Okay, so let's go over here, go to the rear view. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a degree 2 curve like this. I'm going to make that into a degree 2, and I'm just going to do a line. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to finish the surface over here. So I'm going to say, well, I think the curve looks pretty good. Yeah. So I think I'm just going to project over here like this, not Y, but from either X or view, doesn't really matter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to finish this surface over here. So in order to keep this a little bit simpler, I'm not too hot about this one, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to extend. I'm going to turn merge off. And I'm just going to align it over here. Okay, so because this is a fillet, looks like it's not flowing as well as I hoped. That's Okay, and in which case I'm just going to extend it linear. So I'm just going to extend it linear like this. However, it does need to follow this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change it to degree 5 like this. And I'm going to align. And I'm going to make sure that this is extra severe 1, 2, and 3. And I'm probably going to do blend factor of 0 like this. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And the next step, well, you'll notice that this piece over here is actually sticking out. So I'm going to try to trim that away. Let's see, what is this piece over here? It looks like just a scrap. I think I was probably just using this to measure the distance. I don't need that anymore, so I'm just going to put in the hidden layer. And now over here, I'm going to do a project. So I'm going to just project over here like this, probably normal. And I'm going to delete the construction history. And next up, I'm just going to trim and convert like this so that we have a natural edge. Okay, so that looks good. And what I'm going to do is, because it is, let me just check the continuity. It looks like it's failing curvature a little bit. That's okay, but it's curvature over here. And I'm just going to do align. And I'm going to make sure that it's positional over here. I'm going to say partial. And because this moved, and I'm just going to do blending 1, 2, and let's see, blend factor. Yeah, it looks like it helps to blend factor of 0. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And now I'm going to try to curvature align this piece over here. So I'm just going to grab this edge like that. And I'm going to just curvature, and I'm going to, because this is actually following the edge and I don't want to do that, I'm going to say vector. And it looks like everything fit. Okay, so before we continue, I'm just going to make sure that this didn't affect the CV structure too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check this one. And I'm going to check it against the proxy display. It looks like it's almost perfect fit. So I think we can just leave as is then. All right. So pretty happy with that one. So I'm just going to delete the construction history. Okay, and I'm also going to trim this piece away like that. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. It looks a little bit funny here, but I'm wondering if it's because of visual tolerance. So I'm just going to grab these pieces over here, and I'm going to just crank up the tolerance to 0.001 like that. And I'm just going to check. Okay, it looks like the filler looks pretty good. So I think there is just a visual tolerance issue. Now, before I say visible, I'm just going to change it back to 0.01 so that it doesn't slow down my computer. Okay, so let's continue on. So I need one more piece over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say extend again, merge on, merge off, and I'm going to say extrapolate. And I'm just going to extend it until right here and do the same thing. I'm just going to align over here, make sure that it's curvature like that. And this one, I really don't need to, I probably don't need to align your position. So I'm just going to make sure to check, and that's good. And I'm going to check, this is still retaining the curvature. So I'm happy with that. Okay. So now just a final piece over here. I'm going to say square 1, 2, 3, and 4 like that. Okay, so it looks like this this piece needs a little work. First of all, I'm going to make sure that this is positional. 1 is going to be curvature and 4 is going to be curvature. However, there are way too many CVs and spans. So I'm just going to say explicit control. I'm going to say 5 and 5. And okay, so it looks like it's dipping down quite a bit, but we don't want it to do that. So what I actually need to do is raise this point a little bit up so that the CV flow is nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this CV right here. This, I'm going to say NUV like this. And I'll probably do like 50. I'm just gonna, well, maybe, yeah. So I'm just gonna slowly bring that up like that. And I just want to make sure that the CV structure is nice and even. First of all, I'm just going to trim this piece away so that I can take a better look at it. And you'll notice that there's still a sort of a dip. I think it looks much better. However, it's not even over here. So I'm just also going to fix that one. So I'm just going to grab the CV over here of this surface, because right now this surface is curvature continuous. The curvature continuous to that one. And I'm just going to slowly bring it up like that. And I think that looks much better. Okay, so let's check the continuity. It's curvature here, and it's slightly off. Not too bad, but let me just check the highlight. Okay, well, besides the funny little dimple over here, but that's due to the rendering issue. So I think the highlight looks pretty good. It does look like there's a weird dip over here. I'm wondering if it's due to this. If that's the case, it looks like I might have a little bit more tear up than I hoped. Yeah, I think I might have to fix that. I think one of the reasons why it's doing this is because you'll notice a CV structure that's actually dipping down over here. We don't want it to do that. So I think what happens is because this fillet is actually not that balanced. So if you see the tangent line over here, no, not the tangent line, the theoretical line here, the fillet is much closer here than here, which means I probably need to do a little adjustment over there. So if that's the case, I probably need to rebuild the whole thing. And you'll notice that this dip is a little bit more apparent here, and it looks like it's a little bit dipping down here. Yeah, I probably want to fix that. Okay, so if that's the case, I probably need to rebuild the whole thing. It's not bad. Just a little bit extra manual work, but let's do that in the next tutorial. Okay, so I would say that's it for part 65. We will continue in the next tutorial, and I'll show you guys how to fix this area over here. And thank you guys for watching.